Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Daveismedia podcast. I'm Dave, and I am media. I'm also your host for this podcast. This is episode 4. This is a solo pod. I have no guest, but I felt it was a good time to tell a very important backstory in my life as a content creator. And today, I decided I was going to take on the challenge because, believe me, this is a challenge to get through this whole story. It's a long story about how I was published in a book and got to work with David Ortiz because of responding to a Craigslist post. Look, here's the book. I took this photo. I took all of these other photos on the bottom here. If you're watching in YouTube land, if you're in podcast land, you can't see, but basically on the cover of the book, this is Cooking with the Pros. David Ortiz presents Cooking with the Pros, New England Sports Edition, Volume 1. That's kind of a mouthful, but I decided we should set it up. This was my input, that we should set this up so we could do multiple volumes. So there's like 90 plus athletes with their recipes in this book. And on the cover, as you can see, I took this photo. I took all these photos except this Bill Russell one. I took some great photos of Bill Russell, and honestly, I'm kind of pissed that this other photo was used. He is in the kitchen. It's a good photo of Bill, but I took some of him in New York, and I just thought they were amazing, but I guess they didn't really relate to cooking. So, as you can see, there's my name right there on the cover. Everybody in YouTube land. Photography by Dave Harding, and on the spine, your boy got on the spine too. Photography by Dave Harding. Before we jump into the backstory, one of the coolest moments was I was in Massachusetts. I think it was in like Newburyport. I went into, I think it was the paper store. Up in New England, there's a place called the Paper Store, or the Paper Source. Paper Store, and they're carrying the books. On the shelf, next to the TB12 method, is this book. Like literally, my book was touching Tom Brady's book. Super cool. Being a New England sports fan, one of the greatest moments in my life as a content creator. On the back here, for everybody in YouTube land, again, you get to see podcast. You can go buy the book. It's available. I think it's $32.99. Maybe it's on sale now. I don't know. This was published in 2018, so yeah, you might get a deal. I only have 2 copies left. I'm sure I could buy more, but those copies I'm saving. Actually, 3. The other copy I have is signed by everybody I worked with, like Daryl, who helped me out with photography, Matt, super intern Matt, as you know him so fondly. He helped me on this book. Actually, it was the first gig that him and I did together, was this book. And on the back here, there's more photos. Got a photo of Patrick Pass, Ricky Craven, fellow Mainer, NASCAR driver, Jarvis, Pat Bradley, whose nephew Keegan Bradley is on the PGA Tour. She's a golfer as well. Dave Cowens also lives in Maine, not a Mainer, but lives in Maine. Sean Thornton, and all these fabulous recipes. So this book is just full of, like all my photography. That didn't really flip that well for those in. Oh, listen to that. These are the pages. Can you hear it? All the pages. So many photos. Bill Rogers, distance runner. Anyway, David Ortiz is in here. Pedro Martinez, Charlie Moore, Andre Tippett. Very cool. Andre Tippett follows me, and we interact on Instagram. It's cool. It's cool. It's no big deal. Hall of Fame, NFL Hall of Fame, no big deal. Ray Bork's on the cover. Scotty Lego. Okay, I'm going to stop with the names, but this book exists in this form because I responded to a Craigslist ad in 2016. And let me take you back. So, I'm living in Maine. I have no job. I'm freelancing full-time. And something that I got really good at doing was every morning and every night for an hour, I would go on Craigslist and I would just scour Craigslist and I would look for jobs. I would look for creative gigs. I would go into gigs and I would look for creative, TV and film. I think there's another category. And for that, I would look for part-time jobs and full-time. I will tell you, if you're a creator, there's not a lot of opportunities in the full-time. But the part-time, if you kind of dive in there, and you should search multiple regions, but in the part-time, you will find stuff that's creative, like maybe it's writing, maybe it's grip. I remember one time I had a random gig. I shot this comedy YouTube video for these guys who were doing like a fake seltzer company, and we shot it at a brewery. I made like $100 cash. 2 hours of shooting, and they did the editing. So I just shot the footage and handed it off. Super fun. So Craigslist, great resource. I was on there an hour in the morning, hour at night. Every time I pick up the phone, I would say, yes. I would just, if somebody said, hey, did you respond to my Craigslist ad, or is this Dave? Are you the one who responded to my ad? And I just always say yes. You always say yes, because even if they don't say your name, maybe there's some good money attached to it. In my case, I was picking up Caitlin and Taylor from the airport. I was in, was I in Boston? Yeah, I was in Boston. Drove to Logan to drive them up to Maine because Caitlin's sister was getting married. And actually, I photographed that wedding. That was one of my freelance gigs. So, double bonus. I know I have a gig coming that weekend, and I pick up the phone. I'm at Logan. I don't even look at it, and I say, hi, this is Dave. Hey, did you call about the ad I put in Craigslist, for beverages and sports? And I said, yes, I did. And the woman said, great. Well, I'm looking for somebody, who's interested in the beverage industry and is interested in sports. And I said, look, lady, I'm a guy from New England. Of course. I like having a good brewski every once in a while, and I love the Sox, Pats, Bruins, Celts. You know what it is. New England. It's all we got. Like, that's, if you're from New England, it's not a choice. It's just indoctrinated into you as a young person. Probably when I was 7 or 8, my dad took me to Fenway Park. It was over. If you've seen Fever Pitch, that is what happens to every young man and woman a lot of times in New England. You go to Fenway Park and you're just sold. You're sold on these pathetic losers who now have won a bunch of World Series. But anyway, back then they hadn't won. So I'm a sports fan. So I respond to this woman's call. I say, yeah, of course I like that. She said, great. Well, I have a shoot coming up, and I would love to have you shoot it. I looked at some of your work because I sent her a link to Daveismedia.com. I've had that website up since 2015, I think. So I sent her a link to my site, and she checked it out. She liked the work. So I said, great, where's it going to be? And it was in, I think just outside of Foxborough somewhere. So I get some more details later, and I hang up the phone. I hang up the phone. She's like, great, I'll call you back. So I pick up Caitlin and Taylor. They get off the plane. We're driving up. And I think it's the next day, we're driving to my studio in Saco at the warehouse, and I get a call from this woman, the producer, and Sue. Her name is Susan. And she says, all right, so I have, for this one gig, like, how much would you charge? And I'm thinking, man, like, I just want to get this job. And so this is like a crucial point for me, realizing I don't want to lose the gig by charging too much, and I'm still in the gig mentality, right? So I feel like I don't have any leverage. I need to get paid. I need cash. So I say, well, how about $250? I'm about to really lowball myself. And she says, great. And I'm just like, dang. She just took it at $250. So lesson to all you creators out there, always shoot high and make them come down, because I anchored myself at $250. So now it's $250 a shoot. Which is cool, because if there's multiple shoots in a day, which end up happening in this book, by the way, just a little spoiler alert, there were a few days I did more than one shoot. $250 per shoot, not per day. Cool. So it's not a day rate, it's a per shoot rate, and most of these shoots end up being a couple hours because you only have this athlete or former athlete in their home most of the time, and you say, we've got a couple of hours, and that's it. So, okay, $250, it's agreed upon. The first shoot is with New England Patriots legend Troy Brown. He is, I believe, a 3-time Super Bowl champ, and it's at this house just outside of Foxborough. So I show up to the house. I actually meet Susan at McDonald's before, because I'm like, well, I want to meet this lady before. Like, is this some Craigslist killer? Is she going to take me to some remote house out in Foxborough and steal all my gear and, kill me and hide the body? I wasn't really thinking like that, but it was good we met at a public place. If you're doing Craigslist, meet the person in a public place. McDonald's, I'm sure, had cameras, whatever. It wasn't a big deal. So I met Susan, super nice. She had a couple assistants with her. Names are escaping me at the moment, so we all decide, all right, let's grab some coffee and head over to the house. So we go to the house, and Troy's not there. So I'm just like, is this Troy's house? I'm confused. And then I meet two other really nice women. It's Tara Goodwin and Margaret Mondillo. And these two, I end up, after this whole book thing and during this book thing, I end up working with them all the way through last year, Goodwin Group PR. Two of my best friends now and mentors at the same time. They've had that agency, I think, for like 25 years now. And they do a lot of work with the TB12 Foundation and, the Patriots in general with athletes, and they represent Troy. So that's why they're there. It's actually Tara's house. So we're at Tara's house, and it's a super nice kitchen. I think the backsplash, though, wasn't in the kitchen, but everything else was super nice. So, yeah, the backsplash wasn't done. And anyway, I quickly find out this is a cookbook. This is a shoot for a cookbook. So I'm thinking, all right, cool. I got one gig with Troy Brown, and I'm going to make $250. That's great. I get to meet Troy. That's cool, so I can network. I met these two other women who run this agency, so I've got like 3 contacts and a check coming out of this one shoot. I get paid at the shoot. Troy's super nice. Find out he's not really much of a cook, but he does know what tastes good, right? So I think we do cheesecake, and I can look it up in the book. And I think we do some macaroni and cheese. Yeah, it's mac and cheese. I do believe. Let me get to Troy's book. Troy's page. I haven't opened this thing in a while. Well, let's go to the back. I remember putting together this glossary. So the other thing about this book is, as it's getting done, there's nobody to like edit the book and do the graphic design. And I'm like, man, I put in all this time. This book needs to get done. I need this book to finish. B Brown 109. Okay. So I want this book to get done, so I end up doing a bunch of the page design. It's already kind of in there, but I have to like do the actual mock-ups and layouts. Because here's the thing, I only took $250 per shoot, and with the idea that this was going to be a bigger project. Well, actually, at the time, I didn't know it was going to be a bigger project. I just took it because I needed some cash. So this is some mac and cheese. It's Troy Brown, Troy and Anna on the page there. I took this photo. This is one of the first photos that I took for the book. And, so that's the mac and cheese. And then I think that the cheesecake bites are on a different page. 215. Let me get to that. Toward the end here. Yeah, there it is. Mini cheesecake bites. Troy and Anna again. So we do this shoot, and here's the funny thing, and Taylor, my good buddy Taylor will appreciate this. When Instagram came out, he was always taking pictures of food because he's quite a chef. He's Italian, and then he's a beer connoisseur. So him and my buddy Chris, they run Bay Area Draft, shout out Bay Area Draft, who does craft beer service. Like they bring this truck, and they've got all these keg taps, and basically these jockey boxes are mobile, so you can pour whatever beer you want, keep it cold, do events like weddings, corporate events, all that. A little plug for Bay Area Draft. So at the time, though, I'm always like, man, why are you always taking pictures of food? I hate food photos. I was such a hater of food photos. And now, roles reversed, I'm getting paid. So it's not as bad because I'm getting paid to do it, right? So I'm justifying in my head, well, no, it's different because I'm getting paid. You're just doing it for your Instagram page. So I stopped being a hater. I got all that out of my system. And so now I did a full book of all food photography with athletes. So, again, I'm justifying it. So I do that shoot. It goes well. The gear. So the gear that I bring with me, I have 3 soft boxes. I think I bought like a $300 kit on Amazon. And so it's all constant light, right? So I've got those staged. I always try to put people by the window because I want to use natural light. And we're honestly, most of these recipes, we're really cooking. We're not doctoring them like the commercials do, where they put like glue in the cereal milk to make the cereal hit and like bounce the right way, or like fake cheese on a pizza. Like, we're just cooking all these dishes. Me and Sue, sometimes at her house. Most of the time, Sue will cook the stuff before we get to the person's house just to prep it to save time. Because remember, we've only got a couple hours in each person's house to make these recipes work. So the cheesecake bite's relatively simple. Mac and cheese, you just really need to show that it's kind of a little burnt, a little crispy golden on top, and that's it. So the shoot goes good, and I think, great, like that test went well, or that shoot went well. I said, hey, if you need me again, let me know. Didn't think anything of it. Maybe a couple days go by. Hey, we got another shoot. And I'm like, great. She's like, actually, I have about 60 to 70 more shoots that I want you to work on. And I'm thinking, dang, like, okay, 250 times 60, 70. Like, let's see what that is. Now, it's not a lot. Again, I anchored myself at 250, but let's see, 250 times 70. So it's like 17,500. For a freelancer, it's a ton of money. I think in 2016, I only pulled in like $23,000. Not a lot of money. But I was living on my own terms. Anyway, forget about the money. So I'm excited now because I have steady work. But here's the problem. I live in Maine. I live in Portland. And I've got to drive at least 2 hours to these locations. I think there's only a couple locations in Maine. And the ones in Maine were like way up in Maine. Like, I think Ricky Craven's house is up in Greenville. It's like 3.5 hours from Portland. It's on Moosehead Lake. And I don't know if I even went to the other location in Maine. Nothing in Portland. It was all, Charlie Moore in New Hampshire. And then Jermaine Wiggins. He was in Massachusetts, but not quite Boston. But most of the time I'm Foxborough. And then we did Bill Russell in New York City. That was super cool. We were at the Ritz-Carlton and Soho. Like, just dope. Tip of Manhattan. Like, one of my favorite moments of my whole life, getting to meet Bill Russell. And he was talking mad shit about Santa Clara, but whatever. I wore the Santa Clara hat because I knew he went to University of San Francisco, and I kind of wanted to get a reaction out of him. And he's like, yeah, we used to kick Santa Clara's ass in basketball. I was like, I know, you guys won back-to-back NCAA titles back in the day. Like, of course you did. So, Bill Russell, right? All right. This is before all that stuff happens. So I get more gigs. That was basically my test. And I'm getting to meet like Ray Bork. I get to meet Pedro Martinez, Rebecca Lobo, Tuukka Rask, Gerard Mayo. Even get my boy JR, who was on episode 2 of the podcast, my first guest. He actually comes and helps me with a bunch of stuff. We get Bill Belichick. Let me just run through the names here. Cause Dave Cowens. Oh yeah, Dave Cowens was in Wyndham. That was cool. Andrew Ferentz played for the Bruins. Who else we got? There's all kinds of people in here. We met Schumacher. Oh, yeah. Hannah Kearney, the Olympic snowboarder. No, sorry. Mogul skier. Bronze medal. Oh, gold and a bronze medal in skiing. She had these cottage cheese pancakes that were money. Like, this was the best recipe. I know there's a lot of good recipes, but these cottage cheese pancakes, just amazing. We made them at Sue's house, and I just couldn't stop eating them. Jay Heaps, who was former head coach of the New England Revs soccer team. Bill Rogers, 4-time Boston Marathon winner. Guy's a winner. Jarvis Green, what's up, Jarvis? My dude. He has a company, Oceans 97. They do shrimp products. I think he did cornbread. We even got a recipe from Tom Werner, chairman of the Red Sox. He did roasted chestnuts, so I didn't meet him. He was a cool guy, though. Simon Schnapier, this dude, figure skater, pairs figure skating. bronze medalist 2014. I'm going to get into more of these names in the second half of the pod, but I just want to point out, like, responding to one Craigslist ad made all this happen. I'm literally published in a book that I found on the shelf next to Tom Brady's TB12 method book. Because for an hour, for literally a year, I would respond for an hour in the morning, an hour at night. I would search and respond to Craigslist posts about creative gigs, anywhere from Maine to greater New England, New York. I would check LA. I would check Miami. I would check the big cities because typically they'd have bigger checks and I could kind of justify paying for some travel out of what I would make to go do them. I did end up landing a couple gigs in New York. And then, all during the time I'm working with BevNet, so I've got some gigs. So during my crazy years of just only freelancing, because I told myself, no job, you can't have a job. You have to only freelance to make this work. Because, like, the brand Daveismedia was born. Like, I already had the website, but I wanted to put into action what I was telling other people to do, which is you can't have a backup plan. Like, if this is what you want to do, you have to find a way to make it work. Because I knew I had the talent. If I didn't have the talent, I don't think I'd have as much passion, because you got to develop your own talent, right? So through all these gigs, I kept getting better as a photographer. I could work faster. Knowing I only had 2 hours in each home, I had to get photos of the athlete to make them look good. I had to get photos of the food. Oh, also, by the way, I had to get interviews. I had to run sound and lighting for video and run video cameras, multiple angles to get the interviews with all these athletes. So 60, 70 shoots later, we have a book. I have all this unreleased footage. I don't know what to do with it. I think I'm just going to put it out on YouTube. I'm not really sure. Let me know what you think. I want to start releasing some of the stuff that's more behind the scenes. That's not like the good stuff, because Sue and I are still in development to do something with the sports channel. But, time is of the essence. We can't wait forever, and I would rather just put this stuff out. So in the second half of the podcast, I'm going to talk more about some of the athletes, getting to actually meet David Ortiz, getting to actually meet Pedro Martinez, and how the book ended up getting published. And it was really down to the wire of getting this thing done. What's up, podcast? It's Dave. I wanted to let you know I have a YouTube channel. So if you're already seeing this on YouTube, no duh, this is just an ad for the podcast. I'm in the creative space right now. I'm actually editing my first episode right in here. So if this is past episode 1, hey, I'm wearing the same sweatshirt as episode 1, so it's just a look back. Anyway, go check out my vlog on YouTube. I do travel vlogging, BTS of working with my man Max Maxwell, all kinds of great stuff on there. Go check that out. And if you're a sponsor, this could be your ad spot. Right now I don't have a sponsor because this is my first episode. So anyway, sponsors out there, this is your ad spot. All right, back to the podcast. All right, I'm back real quick. I wanted to call my dad because this was, I think, one of his proudest father moments, that I got to do this book and meet Ortiz and Pedro, and he was always asking me about it. So let's call him. I don't know. I didn't prep him. I don't know if he's going to pick up, but it's Sunday, so he should be hanging around. A lot of phone calls in here. Let me get to him. Come on, where's it at? There we go. All right, so we're going to call my dad, Brewster. Huge Red Sox fan. Let's see what he says.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, what's going on, Dad?
Just coming back from Ryan's house.
Nice.
On the River Road.
Hey, so I'm doing a podcast right now, and I wanted to ask you some of your thoughts on the David Ortiz cookbook. Like, what do you remember when I got that gig? Like, any like excitement, any kind of details?
As far as what my response?
Yeah, what's your perspective on it, before it became, like a real book?
Well, geez, I thought, you had a great gig where you were linking up with, retired sports stars that a lot of them that I knew. I thought, God, what a great opportunity.
So who is the coolest person you think I got to meet?
Pedro comes to my mind.
Yeah.
First.
Yeah.
He seemed to be friendly, and, you you had your arm around him and you're taller than him.
Yeah, that was funny.
But, he's a pretty likable guy, and, he's not arrogant, I don't think. But then again, when you told me you interviewed that Celtics player out west.
Oh, you mean Bill Russell?
Bill Russell.
Yeah, New York.
That's pretty outstanding. He was just a giant during his time, as well as I remember being at Fenway Park when he came into the stands. Everybody stood up and clapped.
Wow. So you get to see Bill Russell walk into Fenway Park.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. Did you probably saw it? Did you ever see Billy Canigliaro play?
Probably on television, but not live.
Yeah. And then
a short career.
I also met Fred Lynn. Did you ever watch him play?
Oh yeah, Fred was quite. That was an exciting time. Him, Jim Rice. They had a pretty good team. Was that in the 70s, early 80s?
Yeah, 75 series. He was a rookie. I think he was Rookie of the Year and MVP in the same year.
Yeah. Well, they sort of thought that he would be, after Yaz, he kind of had that Ted Williams aura, and potential.
Yeah. So, what do you think is the coolest part of getting this book? Like, for me, what did you think was the best part? Like, what's your proudest moment?
Well, I think the way you handled it, you kind of, it was a gig of your own, and so here you were sort of, directing and, organizing. Naturally took over, and I imagine, I wasn't at any of the gigs, but I imagine you were pretty much directing the thing.
Yeah, I was definitely directing pretty much every shoot. I was just talking about how we only had like a couple hours in each house just to get what we needed, and we needed to get photos not only of the person but of the food, and get video interview of the people as well. So
yeah.
I learned how to work on a tight schedule, but the biggest thing that I learned was using Craigslist, this free tool, to be able to land something like this. And then I found my book on the shelf next to Tom Brady's TB12 method.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Just crazy.
Yeah, I think, we never knew what it was really going to look like until it was published. And, it was a pretty handsome book. And it was pretty surprising how many people you did, even though you didn't, interview them all. It was a pretty good percentage of the book.
Yeah, I think we ended up interviewing about 70 out of the 90 athletes.
Right.
It's a lot.
So, and I think the thing that impresses me at this point is that it was kind of your first real project on your own.
Yeah. It really was.
Handled it well.
Thanks. Yeah. I didn't even think about it that way, but it was the first big, project I landed, and I wasn't part of another company. I was just like my own company, my own Daveismedia brand was shooting it, editing, and I remember getting.
You had to sacrifice quite a bit because you were spending a lot of time at the beginning, not a lot of money. So, you stuck with it even though, you really didn't have a place to live.
I really didn't have a place. I had your house. That was good. It was a crash pad. I probably drove like a few thousand miles over the course of a year and a half because every shoot was out of Maine except for Ricky Craven, but that might as well have been because it was in Greenville.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you did. You got up early and you headed off from Maine a lot of the time. So that's, it's going to be quite a part of your history.
Well, it's good. I'm documenting it now. I'm recording the podcast. I wanted to call you because I remember we used to do this on my baseball podcast, and I would get like, your hot takes on the Red Sox, or if you remember this person or that person.
Yeah, anytime. It's always this.
So, yeah, well, I appreciate it, and I just wanted to say that I appreciate you giving me that chance to just do freelance, because I decided in my head I couldn't have a job and do something cool like this at the same time.
Right. Yeah, it was kind of a touch and go period for 2 or 3 years there, where you knew you wanted to be on your own and then you had to tough it out, but you made it.
I made it. We're still here.
Yeah.
Okay, we're back. You got to hear from my dad, who has definitely always been a huge supporter of me and allowed me to not only go to college, was basically the major financial reason that I was able to attend Santa Clara. I picked up the tab on some of the student loans after, but I got to be honest, him and his business is what got me through. So I always super thankful to him. And the cool thing is, not only financially, but him and I are best friends. We brainstorm about basically any topic. And when it came to sports, I knew he grew up in Massachusetts and Connecticut as a Red Sox fan. I knew that this book would be something, really important to him. To see that, I was a part of it, that I got to meet guys like Pedro Martinez. He would take me as a kid to go see Pedro pitch. I want to say we saw him at least a dozen times. And I remember we would always see him, lose a game like 2-1, and he'd have 17 strikeouts, and it'd be the Devil Rays. And it's like, come on, like, he pitched such a great game, the Red Sox just give him no offense. It was like the late 90s, early 2000s, before they won a World Series. So always love to get my dad's perspective. But he brought up a good point. There was a lot of challenges when it came to getting this book done, when it came to doing these shoots. And it was my first endeavor as my own company, really directing pretty much everything on set, and figuring out the best angles, the best photos, making sure my shot list in my head got finished. And I really enjoyed the challenge. I barely had help, if I did, and when I did have great help. I had my good buddy Daryl, I had Matt, I had JR for some of the shoots, just as a second set of hands, grips. Having another person there every shoot would have been amazing, but the amount of times I did have the person, it went really, really smooth, so it helped me. But I logged a lot of miles in my Volkswagen. I would drive at least, like I was saying earlier, 2 hours, 2.5 hours to every shoot, and then sometimes I'd go back home, or I'd get to crash at my buddy Chris's place or my buddy Ben's place in Foxborough, just to kind of ease the mileage and let me rest before I went. But I was a road warrior, and I had to pack all my gear. I think I had like 2 bags, and I had my cart sometimes, my multi-cart, the one with the orange on the inside of the wheels that extends, that like production cart thing was clutch. So what I learned was, okay, I can accomplish everything I need in a 2-hour window. I can get photos, I can get video, I can get good quality audio with minimal gear. Let me break down the gear that I brought with me. So I would have a lavalier mic. I only had one, and it was like the ceremonic lavalier. Honestly, it was kind of a piece of shit. Excuse me. But it got the job done. How I would remedy having that piece of shit lav mic is I would have a boom mic. So I would hook up a lav to the lapel, or a lapel mic, same name, same idea. And then I would boom. I had like a boom mic, seen on set, boom the shot. And I would boom another angle, and that way I would have 2 sources of audio. And then, well, technically 3. The third source being the reference from the camera. You always need a reference source from the camera, or you won't be able to sync your audio later. You can, but you have to like visually see that like clap. So you do the clap to sync the sound. And then now there's this beautiful software called Pluralize. And Pluralize will sync all of your sound and video sources for you, being that the video sources actually have sound attached to the video clip. So 2 mics, I would have 2 cameras. I would usually have my 5D Mark III and my 70D. And so the 5D Mark III, I took all the photos with. It now unfortunately has a dead pixel, but I still use it because it's a very tiny dead pixel. And if I'm taking photos, I can Photoshop it out, do a content aware fill, and that seems to work perfect. So it was the 5D, and that would be like the tight shots. I'd do like a shot, you know, kind of like a bust, if you will, like a statue. That's what you call like a close-up. And then I would have another angle, slightly off angle at a 45, and that would be on the 70 to 200 millimeter lens. I can't remember how I bought that. I think I bought it used, yeah. I bought one of these lenses used from the camera store Hunt Photo and Video in Portland, Maine. They're in New England, but the Portland, Maine location. Sidebar, I worked at Hunt Photo and Video for like a day and a half, not even 20 full hours. And it was right in, not the end, but like the last summer of doing this shoot. And the manager there, Nico, was super nice about it. I just went in the third day to open. I said, dude, I don't got it. I can't do this job. You just want me to sell cameras and wear production black in a store. This is not exciting. I just realized that I didn't want to talk about gear all day and be behind like a desk or in a store. I can talk about gear all day on YouTube or if I'm out in the field shooting and editing. But being in a store, it limited, basically having a job limited my ability to do these shoots. And so as soon as I booked a shoot with Rebecca Lobo in June, I was like, I can't miss this. Like Rebecca Lobo is the Rebecca Lobo is the GOAT in Connecticut, you know, UConn women's basketball, just in women's basketball. And she has been an analyst on ESPN for a long time. But as a kid playing basketball, I looked up to her as one of the icons in the WNBA. So anyway, super important person. And we were going to get a chance to meet her in Connecticut and do a quick shoot for the book. So I said, man, I can't do this job. No job. So my dad, he was really the reason that I was able to just freelance because he'd let me crash at his house. I could eat his food. He would throw me a couple bucks if I was really down. And I'm telling you, I was broke at times doing this shoot. Even getting paid $250 barely covered my expenses. I was still in debt, all my credit card debt. I didn't really own any assets besides my gear. My whole life was in that car. The car was in my name, me and my dad's name. But you know, that was all I had. All of it. So I'm super protective of my gear. I remember coming back from a shoot one time and somebody wanted me to go out with them. And I said, well, I got to go put my gear at home first. They're like, no, you can just park it or just do it later. And I got kind of mad because I was like, yo, I can't just put my gear. My whole life's in that car. I need to at least put it at my dad's house and lock it up and kind of hide it away. You know, that night did not end so well for me. But that's a total sidebar. My dad gave me not only the opportunity, but the permission to go out there, be creative, do this book with David Ortiz, the opportunity of a lifetime. And then it's funny because we basically had the whole book done before I even meet the guy. So we go to the Saratoga Wine Festival. I think that's the name. So it's me and Daryl. We drive to Saratoga Springs, New York. Yeah, Saratoga Springs. And there was like some cool cars out there. And so this whole thing's set up, right? And the producer's like, yeah, we have time with Ortiz. And I'm like, cool. Because a couple times before, she told me, yeah, we definitely have time with this person and it's blocked out. And I was like, all right, great. We show up to the shoot and they have no clue what's going on. They don't know that we have time. They have not given us any time. It's a very awkward situation. To be in that situation with your producer sucks. And it's awkward to bring it up with them to say, hey, you just like straight up lied to me about prepping these people. Like your job is to prep them. My job is to film and make them comfortable and capture what we need, the visuals and the audio. You just didn't do your job. What it boils down to is when you have that miscommunication, you just have to bring it up. It's going to be an awkward conversation, but if somebody doesn't do what they said that they were going to do, just bring it up. Don't get emotional about it. Just say, hey, what you told me you didn't do it. I don't appreciate that. Please don't do that again. Well, guess what? It happened again. We went to Saratoga Springs. Luckily, I got to give a big shout out to my man Daryl. we get there and I'm like, all right, Sue, like, so where should I set up? I'm ready. We can do, we've got like an hour with Ortiz, so we can do like an interview, 2 cameras. She's like, oh, well, actually, I don't really know who's running the event. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? She's like, well, like, I know who my contact is, but I'm not sure how to get to Ortiz. So anyway, all this talking is happening. While that's happening, Daryl's like, I'm going to go do my thing. Daryl is one of the best that I've ever met at getting into a room, a green room, somewhere he's not supposed to be, and making people believe he's supposed to be there. So Daryl gets in the green room. He meets Kate from Ortiz's Arius Wine Company. Kate then gives us access, like, oh, you guys are great. You're going to do photos for me and get me pictures for the wine. Cool. So now we don't even need access because we've got access to the sponsor. If you're at an event and you can get on a sponsor's good side and give them some content, always do that because that's how you get in the door. Because sponsors are the ones paying. Whoever is paying is the one that will get you the real access. So we link up with them. We're getting some candids. I get this great photo of David, his best friend, and then his dad all smoking a cigar. Just like one of my favorite photos. I actually got Ortiz to sign it, and it's hanging at my dad's house right now. It's one of my favorite pictures. Anyway, so then I'm hanging out with David Ortiz's dad. We're drinking wine. We're smoking cigars. At one point, his dad falls back in his seat because he thought the tent, right? He thought there was a wall at the back of, those big like white tents that they put up at events. He thought that there was like more of a backing, and he falls back in his seat, and everybody's like worried. And he gets up, and he's just laughing because he realizes he was having a couple drinks, and he just fell down. He was fine. Then we go to like this green room. It's downstairs at this other building. And it's like Ortiz, a bunch of these other guys. We're all just drinking wine, hanging out. I get another couple of photos of David smoking cigars, and just to be in the presence of this guy who is arguably the greatest athlete in New England sports history. I'd put him up there with Larry Bird and Bill Russell and Tom Brady. Probably got to give the edge to Tom Brady there, right? But for what happened in 2013 with the marathon bombing and, his famous speech, "This is our fucking city," he's an icon in Boston. He just is. And so to have that realization while I'm in there capturing photos and video, I'm working. So I'm not trying not to be a fanboy, but you have those moments where you're going to just geek out and be like, wow, David Ortiz is sitting on a couch like 5 feet away from me. This is so cool. But I never told him that. Like, I was never like, yo, man, this is great. I'm a huge fan, blah, blah, blah. I think he kind of understands that. I think if you're working with a celebrity, there's some kind of agreement where they know that you're a fan at some level, unless you just don't know sports at all or you don't have a pulse. Because if you live in New England, you know who David Ortiz is. Outside New England, okay, I understand if you don't. But in New England, like, you get it. You know who this guy is. So I get to meet him. Super cool guy. Just honestly exactly how you would picture him. Jovial. He's the life of the party. He's pretty laid back. His dad is funny. His dad barely speaks English, but, understands a little bit here and there. We do the event. It's cool. But again, I'm frustrated because I don't get to shoot an interview with him. Nothing was controlled, and I was just, frustrated at the end of the night at the producer. And I just said, like, I don't know why you can't just tell me we don't have any time with him. That's cool. If that's the case, you always want somebody to set the expectation with you. That's what I'm getting at. Set the expectation that you're going to maybe not have the greatest access. And then I'm like, okay, cool. Now I can plan and be resourceful and know that if I get anything, it's a bonus. But I was walking into that thinking I have access. Not only do I have access, I have this person's time and I have a room set aside. I'm just being promised the world and getting nothing. So you always want to do that. It's, under promise, over deliver, especially with access, especially with us filmmakers and photographers. We always want more time. We want to know what our limitations are, the creative sandbox, if you will. And if that sandbox is time, or that sandbox's access. We need to know those things because we can plan. But if you're a producer out there and you don't allow us creatives to plan, that is your fault. You could have given us a chance to plan. You need to let us plan because we can save you from a situation where maybe you don't have the best access. Because my man Daryl swooped into the green room, started sweet talking everybody, and got us the best access we could have that weekend. Daryl, always grateful for that. Thank you. So I do a bunch more shoots after that. A bunch meaning probably 6 just pickup shoots. We have, let's see, Andre Tippett, who's a super cool guy. He lives near Foxborough. He works, I think he leads the communications department for the Patriots. He's an NFL Hall of Famer. Have dinner at his house with him and his wife, Rhonda. It was a great time. Get some great photos, some interviews, some footage, that kind of stuff. And I think that was about the last shoot that we did. I think the production was wrapped at that point. Then we just had to get the book done. And so after that, I'm not really shooting anymore. I did a couple random gigs with Jarvis Green, with Sue. I think I did one with Jarvis just a year ago for Bass Pro Shops. But the book almost didn't come about because the designer bailed on Sue. And I'm still there just kind of holding all this footage saying, like, I can't live with myself if this thing doesn't get done. I put in all this time. I gave the homie discount of the century, $250 a shoot, which is stupid, but I did it. And we're sitting here with this unfinished book, and we don't even have the cover design, so I designed this whole cover. Got the photo Ortiz at the top. Oh, I think the final shoot was at Ortiz's house. This is in his kitchen at his house in Massachusetts. So we do this final shoot since September, and that's the first time I'm really getting to talk to him because at the Saratoga Springs Cigar and Wine Fest, I don't really get to talk to him. I'm just capturing, I say what's up and dap him up and all that stuff, but other than that, it's an event. It's not our event, so again, we didn't really have access. So we get to go to his house. I get to spend a little more time with him. And, he sits down. There's like a sound bite I have him on camera saying, wow, like, Sue's showing him this list of all the people that did this book. Because this whole book is for his children's fund, for the David Ortiz Children's Fund. That was kind of part of why I gave such a good deal on my day rate. Because I said, well, typically I would charge about $500 a shoot at the time back in 2016, 2017. So in my head, I'm just giving half of my day rate to the fund so it doesn't cost so much to make this book. So I realized there's a better way I could have done that, but in my head, that's how I justified it. I said I'm not going to take a full rate because, this is for the kids. Trying to do it for the kids, trying to do a good thing. But, I catch him right after the shoot. I get him to sign a couple photos. And, he's just like, wow, I can't believe all these people did these shoots for me for this book. He's reading the names like Bill Russell and Ray Bork and Troy Brown and Charlie Moore, all these people that he knows that he's interacted with. And it was just cool to watch that moment, to watch, you could see that he was very grateful for everybody involved, everybody that wanted to, do the project. And, he signed a couple of photos for me that I had taken of him during the shoot. So I made sure to print them out, bring them with me because I knew we were going to meet him. And that was that. And then, let's fast forward back to this thing not getting designed. And I threw out a rate. I said, look, Sue, I will talk to the publisher because I want this thing to be published. I needed a physical book because that was the whole point in doing this project. When you told me it was going to be a book, I wanted to get my name on the spine and my name on the cover. And there's even a photo of your boy in the book, which is super cool. So not only do I get the credits, but there's a photo of your boy right there. That's me. Daveismedia, and I tried to get my Instagram in there. I actually initially tried to get my Instagram on the spine because I was like, you know what? You don't need to put my real name. Just put my handle so everybody can go look me up. And they kept denying me. I don't know why people deny that. I think that's such a brilliant marketing move. But I digress. Anyway, the book got done. I helped design the pages and the cover. And honestly, sending this design and the exact specs on Illustrator, especially the one with the ISBN barcode, is a pain in the ass. But we got it done. I think it was 2018. I was in Santa Monica. I was hanging out with Chris Fernari, aka Fern, and we were just cruising around on bird scooters and skateboards, and I got the text that it was finished, and I was like so relieved. It was done. And then I ordered, I think, a couple dozen copies, and I sold all the copies I had, except for I've got 3 left, and this is one of those 3. So that is my story. There's many more side stories to getting the book done, but that's my story on how a Craigslist post and a response can become a whole book. This is where you get published. I'm a published photographer and designer. I designed some of this, right? Pretty cool. So a free tool, again, a free tool like Craigslist can get you published as a photographer in America. That is just the truth. I love this country because there's free things like that. If you just hustle like I did for an hour in the morning, an hour at night, that's the formula. Check all the creative gig postings and job listings, and you can make something like this happen. It is literally all about who you know. I had the technical chops. I just didn't know how to get in the door. And then this project opened all the doors for me, like all of them. And I've still got connection with some people from this book project, which I think is the coolest part. All right, so that's our episode 4 on Cooking with the Pros, presented by David Ortiz, the New England Sports Edition, Volume 1. Photography by Dave Harding. That's me, Daveismedia. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know what else you would like to hear on the podcast. I'm going to have some great guests coming up. I'm going to have Max on the podcast soon. I'm going to get EA, the exec at Open Media Labs. I'm going to get some other creatives in Winston. I started my meetup. My meetup is once a month at the Winston Tower. Usually the beginning of the month. We did Wednesday, so March 4th. That was my first one. Went really well. Had about 20 people there. I'm going to do it again because I feel like people got some good value out of it. We talked, creating content, being an influencer, being a YouTuber versus just being a creator or being both. There a lot of good topics came up. We're going to screen people's projects. I'm going to screen some of mine so you can see the cringeworthy footage that I used to make and show you now the stuff that I'm really proud of. I'm still proud of the early stuff, but I'm proud of it because I just started. I just made something happen. So for everybody out there, please leave a review, 5-star review. Leave me a comment on iTunes. That stuff helps move me up in the rankings so more people can get exposed to my podcast, my Daveismedia podcast. If you're on YouTube, please like, subscribe, hit the bell, get notifications. Tell your friends the Daveismedia podcast is here to stay. I'm Dave. I am media. We'll catch you next time. Peace.